Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock. Excited to have you here with me today. Normally, I have a guest on with me. However, today, I just want to talk to you about the journey and the healing journey. So when I recently received an invitation to a TEDx event audition, I was so excited. Out of 150 applicants, they called a select few in to talk about the theme, which is extraordinary. And so what I talked about was the podcast. So I want to give you a little quickie version of my 3-minute elevator speech that I did for the audition, because I think it will help you understand what the mission of the Healing Place podcast is. So I'll start. And then I'll freeze because I forgot what I was doing. So easily distracted. I call it menopause brain. When I did the introduction for my audition, I started with the welcome to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock. Thank you for joining me here today as I welcome another extraordinary guest. So what is the Healing Place podcast and why did I start it? I want to tell you the story about a little girl that may help you understand. During the first 22 years of this little girl's life, she experienced severe trauma, from physical abuse to sexual abuse, bullying, neglect, living with an alcoholic parent who was addicted to alcohol and prescription medications, living with a physically abusive parent. Also, exposure to extreme violence, including 2 bank robberies, one in which a coworker was murdered. And soon after that second bank robbery, she started to develop severe panic attacks, and for the next 25 years of her life, attempted to live life with the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And that little girl is me. I eventually found my way onto a healing path. I found my way in 2013 to Emdr Therapy, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And truly for me, it was life-altering. I also began at that time seeing a second therapist. So I was seeing 2 therapists at one time. And we started to address creating my toolbox. I was working with kids at the time in the mental health field as well and was helping them create their toolbox. And so I started to utilize things for myself and started to do yoga and meditation and also looking into alternative therapies such as tapping or EFT, emotional freedom technique, and Ho'oponopono Hawaiian healing and meditation. I think I said nature walks. And just filling this toolbox with as many coping skills as possible so that I could turn to them in times of need. 2 of the most powerful things that I learned along my healing journey so far have been just notice. So just learning to notice the things that were starting to arise. If I was being triggered, if something was coming up emotionally, just to notice without judgment. It was my body, my mind, my soul telling me that I needed to just take heed of it. And then the other thing was to be gentle with myself. And I close all of my podcasts out to that reminder to my audience, remember to be gentle with yourselves. And that sounds so simplistic, but it's hard to do for people who have been through a lot of trauma. So after finding my way onto this healing journey, I decided to start a podcast because I wanted to reach out to everyone who is hurting and everyone who is struggling to say that there is hope for healing. As a matter of fact, the newsletter I send out monthly is called Hope for Healing. And I wanted to shout it from the rooftops that you can do this and that you can live a life of peace and joy even while still traveling the healing journey, still while in the midst of healing. I started to interview friends and family when I first created the podcast to talk about inspirational and motivational stories. And so I would have guests come on and talk about their journey through breast cancer, or parenting a child with anxiety, running an ultra marathon in under 24 hours, which is just, to me, amazing. And then I started to reach out to members of the ACEs community, and ACEs are adverse childhood experiences, and had therapists and researchers and teachers and those that are involved in helping others build resilience. And then the snowball started to roll, and the podcast started to get bigger and bigger. And suddenly I found that I was being reached out to by agents saying, hey, my client wants to be on your show. And these people were doing just incredible work all over the world. And I was interviewing people in Italy and the UK and British Columbia, and all of them working towards helping shine the light of hope and helping to create a space of healing for others. So some are writing books, and some are doing speaking tours, some are doing TEDx presentations, others are coaching, and some have podcasts, and some have talk shows, and some do Facebook Live, some do YouTube Live, and some are creating newsletters and have websites. But every one of them is there helping others heal. So I bring people onto the show and I tell them I want it to be a conversation between friends, or, have that feeling. And we're all shining our individual lights of hope, but as we come together, as more of us come together, that light is just going to shine that much brighter. I'm kind of looking up over my desk right now, and there's a picture of a lighthouse, and its light is shining out over the ocean, and it's a dark, kind of a dreary scene, but that light is shining out. And so it makes me think of all of us who have been along the healing journey after experienced horrific trauma in our lives. And we find ourselves in a place of peace, and we just want to help others along that way. And so tune into the Healing Place podcast. Check out these episodes and listen in and see if maybe something resonates with you, and maybe you can find some healing as you travel your journey. So I thank you for listening and for being a part of this beautiful space filled with amazing people doing truly extraordinary work in the world. So thank you. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Be gentle with yourselves. Thanks. Bye-bye.